Hello, my name is Orfhlaith Foyle and I'm going to read a small piece from the title story of my short fiction collection, Summer in Minnesota. I was sitting in a diner in God knows where in Duluth, Minnesota during winter time, and the waitress was concerned for me. She liked my accent and noticed my bruised face. She said, "Who's been hurting you, sweetheart?" I don't like it when people use sweet language on strangers. Sweet language belongs to lovers. But she was kind, a little bit old with worn blonde hair, the sort that was dying before she was, and the fat had fallen in her face. I wanted to draw her, so I ripped a napkin from the dispenser and took my pencil from my pocket. My phone buzzed against my hip twice and switched to message mode. The diner door opened and the waitress called out, "Hey, John." John raised a salute. "How are you these days, Hetty? The kids?" Hetty laughed. She said her husband had come over with the kids yesterday. She said they were all grown up now and one of them wanted to be an archaeologist. He always did like finding dead, useless things, she said. I tried to ignore her voice, but it had a good rhythm to it and helped me move my pencil. Hetty called over, "You okay there, girl?" I don't know if she wanted John to see me or maybe she just didn't want to talk about her kids and husband anymore, but she made John look. Now some men, you just know they like to see hurt women. John stared right at me and the muscles jumped across his jaw and his eyes lit, before his head went back down over the menu. I glanced to where Hetty was pouring coffee for some other customer. Her arms bulged from beneath her little girl waitress uniform. Her earrings chimed, and she was singing along to the radio. A few minutes later, she served John his coffee and as usual. The diner was big and bright, and the voices were loud. My phone buzzed again. I'd lost count by now. I finished drawing and watched an old man talk into his chicken dinner. Bits of chicken fell from his beard, and his knee was jiggling hard under the table. "How are you getting on?" Hetty called over to me. I curled my hand over my napkin, and on she came, high heels clicking fast, and I saw John raise his expression from his coffee to my face. I gave him a smile. He fit a potato from his fork to his mouth. "When I was a little girl, my mother said I watched people too much. I made them scared and angry," she said. But it was just the way my mind turned when it saw something it liked. Hetty was humming "You Are My Sunshine" as she reached me. She stopped humming as soon as she saw what I had done. I had made her younger, with darker hair similar to what I had seen growing from her roots, and I had fluffed it about her head because it made her neck longer that way. I had corralled the fat from under her chin and replanted it in her cheeks, and I had widened her eyes so that she looked as innocent as she might have been once. "Do you like it?" I asked. Hetty snatched it and held it aloft. "Hey, John, we've an artist here." John stuck his head out from his neck and focused on the napkin. "Looks just like you did this morning, Hetty." Hetty laughed and folded the napkin into her apron pocket. Then she tried to touch my face, and my insides crept to my backbone. I stood up fast and nearly fell into her. She took hold of me. "Take it easy, sweetheart." She clucked her tongue. "Who did this to you?" I said, "The ladies, please." Hetty started to bring me towards the back of the diner, but I stopped her. "Just show me, please." Hetty dropped her arms from me. Her voice went sharp. "What's your name?" "Frankie," I told her. She held her hands just beneath my chin, but not touching me. "You go on in there and take as long as you please, Frankie. Food is on me." The ladies' room smelled of synthetic cherries. It had pale green walls, and there were false blue and pink flowers stuck in a yellow vase on the shelf beside the sink's mirror. I locked the door and stripped to my slip. I filled the sink with cold, cold water. I just wanted to freeze the pain inside me. I damped the corner of my blouse and patted the blood on my forehead. The diner music piped into the air above me. I stared at my face. My phone buzzed. Peter's name was flashing, so I answered. "Hey," I said. "Whereabouts are you?" he said. "Somewhere in Minnesota," I answered. "Christ, Frankie, just tell me you're still in Duluth." I stared at my reflection as I dabbed at my face with one hand while I held the phone in the other. Peter's voice babbled on. He mentioned crisis more than once. He mentioned money a little bit more. He took a breath and I waited. I put my left hand into the freezing water and felt the cold on my wrist. "Frankie, just come back." I heard the background noise of music and glasses and people's voices. I almost saw the tall white walls holding my paintings and the shiny, clean skin of everyone there. "Frankie, just come back now." I said nothing and waited. Peter breathed in and out. Fuck your father, Frankie, he said. I waited some more seconds, then I switched off the phone. The piped music stopped, then sputtered on. My face was beginning to swell. I ran my tongue over my lips to feel the sting. I knew I'd have to go outside, finish whatever Hetty had cooked for me, and make some kind of conversation Minnesotan Americans would appreciate. I'd ease on into their lineage, find an Irish link, and marvel at big. I liked it big here. Hey, Frankie, you still in there? A man's voice came through the wall, so I answered, yes. You okay? Said his voice. I'm fine, yes. I'm going to piss, he continued, and the acoustics in here are astronomical. I rested against the sink as the sound of piss riveted through the wall. Hetty knocked on the door. You okay in there, honey? I heard her giggle and say, Hey, John, watch where you put your hands. I looked at the mirror and whispered, Hey, John, watch where you put your hands. I smoothed down my hair, then went back out. John watched me sit, and Hetty came over with the food. The chicken on the plate seemed alive. It glistened up from underneath slow-moving brown gravy. Boiled greens hung on its thighs, and there was some potato mashed into the shape of a deflated ball, burnt on the edges, smeared in yellow cheese. I willed the chicken to stop moving. I counted to 10 with my eyes closed and felt something move in front of me. When I opened them, John was seated opposite. He had his coffee and apricot pie. He said, Eat the chicken, it's good. I peeled off some thigh meat with my knife, then covered it in mash. Hetty does the best gravy, John said. He cut a chunk from his pie and stuck it in his mouth. He had a nice mouth, thin but well curved. I decided not to talk just yet, and maybe he appreciated the tension because he smiled and hummed a little, then glanced over to Hetty, and who winked at us both. She's been married 5 times, John mentioned. Only one of her husbands gave her kids. She loves those kids, but she can't stand having them for more than 3 days. I nodded and continued to shave meat and mash together. That's the thing about Hetty, John said. She can act the love, just as long as she's not near it too often. He smiled and pointed his fork at my face. So you coming in here looking like that gets her mother instincts all in a tizzy. You and Hetty, I stated. He shrugged. We're friends. He smiled. We like meeting people. I nodded and chewed on chicken. John smiled at my bruises and cut an apricot in 2 with the side of a spoon. Hetty likes to help people. So do I. I said nothing while I scraped a square of cheese from my mash. I'm just here to eat, I told him. John smiled and shook his head. With a face like yours, you should be in hospital, but you're not. Makes me and Hetty wonder. I glanced around the perimeter of the diner. I noted how far I was from the main entrance, and a thin delight of fear ran from my throat to my guts. I breathed in and kept smiling. The old man caught my smile and raised his hand in greeting. A group of silent kids were reading comics in another booth. I'd picked the diner because I thought it seemed the sort of place people got lost in for a while. I've just left my boyfriend, I said. John nodded. He did that? No. Then who did? The chicken and mash turned sour in my throat as I swallowed it down. I did this to myself, I admitted out loud. John's eyebrows rose. He looked across at Hetty, and her smile slid from him to me. I glanced at my phone. I told myself 5 more minutes, or maybe dessert and coffee, then I'll ring back.